Hey y'all, so I'm sitting in my car, and I want to share this really quick word, okay? I think this is good. So, I know I've talked about before the story of God telling Abraham to go up to the mountain and sacrifice his son. Now, we all know that this is the son, Isaac, the son that God promised Abraham. And there are four things that stand out to me in that story, okay? The first thing is how quickly Abraham obeyed God. Like, no hesitation. It was like God was like, Abraham, I want you to take your son Isaac up to the mountain and sacrifice him. And Abraham was like, bet, that's what's up. And I know that there were so many different emotions going on inside of him. I mean, he's a father. You know, God is telling him to sacrifice the very son that he promised him, but he still obeyed God without any hesitation. The second thing that stood out to me is how Abraham believed right from the beginning that God was going to save his son. And how do you know that Abraham believed that? Because when he got to the mountain, I believe he was at the bottom of the mountain, and he told his servants, we are going to go up to the mountain and worship, and then we will be back. The only way for we to be back, which represented him and Isaac, was for God to save Isaac. So he showed and acted as though he believed God would save his son. The third thing that stands out to me is that Abraham was not concerned about the how. He didn't seem to know how God was going to save Abraham. He didn't know if God was going to provide another lamb, another sacrifice, or if God was going to resurrect Isaac. Now, the interesting thing about thinking that God would resurrect Isaac is Abraham had never seen God resurrect anybody before. But he knew God's power, and he knew who he was and who he is, rather. And so he says, we're going to come back, because he was not concerned about the how, because he knew the who. And the fourth thing that stands out to me is that Abraham said, we are going to the mountain to worship. Worship is not limited to singing songs or having a worship leader or even being in a church. Worship is your prayer. Worship is your obedience. And in this particular case, Abraham's obedience was his worship. He was like, I'm going to go up here, do what God told me to do, and then we will be back. So to recap, the four things that I got from those scriptures in Genesis, and I will put the exact scriptures because I have to remember which ones they were. Lord, forgive me. But number one, he obeyed God immediately. Sometimes we take way too long to obey God. And I feel like we're wasting time when we could be focused on God, focused on ministry, focused on discipling others. We're spending time with a lot of back and forth with God. So number one, let's get to the point where we can obey God sooner. Number two is believe that God's promise is true, because he is not a man that he shall lie. Okay, so if God promised it to you, it is done, it is so, and you can lean on that promise, or better yet, lean on the promiser, because you know who your God is, and you know that he is not a man that he shall lie. So whatever he promised you will come to pass. It may not happen exactly as you want it to happen. There may be some bumpy rides along the way, but it still will be done because God said so. Number three is to not be as concerned about the how. How God is going to come through for you is really none of your business. You just need to focus on the who. The how is not something that you should be worried about. You should be focused on the who, because God said it, it is done. So don't get caught up in the details. And number four, worship is not just something you do on Sunday at church with your hands raised. Worship is your obedience. Worship is your faith. Worship is you honoring God. Worship is you acknowledging that he is who he says he is. So that's my message for today. I wanted to stop. I'm on the way to get me something to eat. But just wanted to share, and I pray that that blesses you, and that we can obey God quickly, that we can believe whatever he says, believe his promises, because he is God. Number three, don't concern yourself with the how, because you know the who. And number four, worship is in your obedience, it's in your prayer, it's in your faith, it's in your daily life. All right, you enjoy this lovely day. Bye.